face off in an epic clash with everything to...
Hello everyone and welcome back to another video of Hero Tactics. In this video we're continuing the full set review of Dawn of War. In this video we're going to be talking about the buffs and debuffs of the game. So let's get started. Our first one is going to be Bad Drug. It is an uncommon debuff that costs 2 action points. It affects water characters. Any water character that your opponent controls will get -1 strength or -1 magic. And that's pretty much it. There's going to be a few that are like this. And the opposite will be obviously buffs that will do the same thing but for your characters. But let's continue looking at the next one. The next one being Blinding Light, which is also an uncommon with 2 action points debuff. Shadow characters your opponent controls get -1 strength and -1 magic. I won't go too much into detail. They're pretty straightforward, but buffs and debuffs are cards that you can play on the field, kind of like field spells that will affect the tides of the game. The next one we're going to look at is going to be Calm Breeze, which is another uncommon 2 action cost debuff, but this one affects the wind heroes. So this one also will give -1 strength and -1 magic to your opponent's wind characters. And then we take a look at one that's a little bit different. This one is Cleansing Field. It is a mythic. It costs 5 action points. It is a debuff, and negative status effects on your characters last 1 turn less. If this would reduce it to 0, your characters become immune. If you're not familiar with immune, essentially a character that has immunity in the game will not gain any new negative status effects for whatever period of time they are immune. But if they're already immune and they have a negative status effect, the immunity will prevent any effect that ability will do, but it will still count down if it has a countdown timer on it. Now, let's look at the first buff. It is a common 3 action point cost buff. Dungeon. Shadow characters you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. These are pretty good for mono affinity decks. As obviously they will, instead of just buffing 1 or 2 of your characters, it will buff the whole team. Next, we'll look at Focus Aim. It is a common buff that costs 2 action points. Ranged characters you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. So we haven't looked at this term. They're going to be ranged heroes and melee heroes. So keep that in mind as you're building your deck. That way you can build it efficiently. Now, let's take a look at another debuff, Gloomy Weather. It's an uncommon for 2 action points. Light characters your opponent control gain -1 strength or magic. Now, let's look at Healing Buff. I know we talked about this one in the previous video as we were talking about the character that lets you search for this. This is a buff. It is a rare that costs 2 action points. And whenever your characters would gain health, they actually gain that much health +1. And now let's look at Increased Storage, which is another mythic. It does cost 5 action points. It is a buff, and you have no maximum hand size. In the game, you do have a maximum hand size of 7, but this one allows you to have more than that, of course. And at the beginning of each round, you actually are going to draw an additional card. So this one's pretty powerful if you can get to it. It will help you draw more cards and be able to defeat your opponent faster. Next, let's look at another mythic, Memory Recall. 2 action points buff. It does have an activated ability, so this is the first one that we've seen this way, where you can pay 3 action points, return up to 2 non-item cards from your discard pile to the bottom of your deck. This one's really good against mill decks, mill strategies. That way you don't never run out of cards. And now let's look at the other one that we talked about in the previous video, which was Movement Penalty. It is an uncommon for 2 action points. Whenever your opponent's characters would move to another zone, and this means character zone, not any other zone, you deal 2 damage to them. So this one's pretty good with Aurelia. She lets you search it and put it into the battlefield when she comes in from debut. Now let's take a look at another mythic, Neutralize Heal. It does cost 2 action points and it is a debuff. Healing effects from your opponents heal 2 less. So of course, if you're playing against somebody who's healing a lot or some sort of control strategy, this is very efficient as it will dampen the amount of health they're going to gain back on their characters. And then let's take a look at Ocean, which is a common 2 action point buff that says water characters gain +1 strength and +1 magic. Next, let's look at debuff, uncommon, 1 action point, oil. Burn damage your opponent's characters take is increased by 1. Burn is a negative status effect that when the hero activates while they have it, will take 2 damage. In this case, it is going to increase that by 1, so they are going to take 3 damage instead. So if you're building a pyro deck or a deck that focuses on burning, that would be a great addition to your deck. Now let's take a look at another debuff. It's an uncommon, rainy weather, costs 2 action points, and fire heroes your opponent controls get -1 strength or magic. The next one is going to be Sky. It is a common buff with 2 activation points for Sky, and wind heroes you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. Again, these are meant to be for kind of like the starter decks, so they are going to be focusing on monocolored decks. And so if you're playing with these and you obviously attack, be more aggressive and attack your opponent faster, these are great additions to those decks. As again, monocolored, usually at the beginning of any game you want to start with that and then expand. If you're not familiar, you can have up to 2 affinities in a deck. That's what the deck restrictions are. So you can only have 2 colors in your deck. Now let's take a look at Temple, which is another buff. It is a common and it costs 2 action points, and like characters you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. And now let's take a look at the opposite of Focus Aim. So this one is Training Arena, and this one costs 3 action points. It is a common, it is a buff, and melee characters you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. Next we'll have Volcano, which is a 3 action point cost common buff, and fire characters you control gain +1 strength and +1 magic. And then we have Water Armor. It is a rare. This one's pretty good for the water characters or the water deck. Prevent the first 1 damage that will be dealt to your water characters each round. So they kind of have like it's not really a shield, but the first damage that they would take each turn, it is reduced by 1. This is really good with control decks and with mono water characters. Now let's look at Weak Immune System. This is a rare 3 action point cost debuff. All negative status effects last 1 more round for your opponents except for Paralyze. So this one is really good if you're doing an all fire or all shadow or a mix of both, because they do focus on negative status effects. This one will be a great addition and definitely something to consider when adding to your deck. So guys, thank you very much for watching. We do appreciate you. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about the buffs and debuffs. Which one would you be running in your deck, if any? And stay tuned for the next one. We'll be talking about reaction cards.